The following was originally published in 2018, and while I stand by the critiques of The Last Jedi I make, I deeply regret any direct personal attacks I make against Rian Johnson, Kathleen Kennedy, or any other employee of Lucasfilm. Those comments were made in anger and frustration, and I will do a separate video about that after this series.
Last time on the Anti-Trekker, Snoke died, along with the Star Wars franchise. So today is part 23 in this review. Now, 23 just so happens to be my favorite number for reasons. So I figured I should do something a bit different. So I am going to do this just a bit non-sequentially here. There are three basic scenes that we'll be covering: the fight with Kylo, Rey, and the Royal Guards, the escape to Crate, and the aftermath of DJ's betrayal. Basically everything that leads up to the big Holdo maneuver. Each of these sections is broken up as the movie cuts back and forth between the various heroes as they're all dealing with their individual situations. I'm going to focus on each in its completion rather than cutting back and forth between them in the same way that the film does. So let's start with the fight in the Royal Chamber. With Snoke dead, killed by Kylo, because even though Snoke was actively reading Kylo's mind at the time, he could not tell what Kylo was really thinking for reasons. The Dark Force butthole. Kylo uses the Force to pull Anakin's lightsaber to him, and Rey catches it. Kylo immediately yells for the guards to arrest her for killing Snoke. Kylo immediately fights Rey to the death. Kylo decides, what the heck, let's fight together with Rey. So they turn back to back and fight the Royal Guards, who decided to wait until just now to rush in to fight them, and the fight happens. Now you may be wondering,
well, why give negative points for this? Is Kylo's choice a negative? After all, it's really cool to have them fighting back to back.
which I would agree, if not for the fact that in 2 minutes we'll clearly see that Kylo has not switched sides at all, making this entire fight scene pointless. Now, as the fight begins, I was thinking, now this is different. Kylo is turned to the light, and we're going to see something we've never seen before, and this should be really cool. And while the fight itself is not particularly well choreographed, it is by no means horrible. It's just not great. Let's look at the opening sequence of this fight. Okay, not bad, right? But let's really look at it for a second. I'm not going to go play-by-play through every weapon strike, but just look at Kylo and think about the fact that he really does not move or even engage. He just stands there and dodges and swings once when a guard rushes him. Contrast that with Rey, who is clearly being more aggressive with her saber and attacking rather than just being passive. How again is it that Rey is the Jedi and Kylo is the dark side Force user? That they're fighting in the exact opposite way that they should be. In this opening salvo, Rey kills one of the guards while Kylo manages to get a glancing blow off the armor of another. I know I've said this before, that Rey seems more angry and aggressive than Kylo, but just look at Rey and Kylo. This is in the middle of the fight. Rey is in an all-out rage mode while Kylo is struggling to maintain emotional control. What is going on here? This makes zero sense at all. So yeah. Rey sends the lightsaber whip thingy flying into the wall, which sets the wall on fire. Because for some reason, the red wall is extremely flammable. The Dark Force butthole. And of course, notice Rey screams in her pure rage in this fight. Contrast that with Kylo's first kill of the fight. Kylo is clearly fighting defensively, waiting for opportunities to counter the attacks of the guards and then take them down, while Rey is wildly attacking the guards. You know, like a Jedi. Fuck you, Rian Johnson. So they fight until Kylo is beaten and Rey is almost beaten, but she saves him. So they face off after the guards are down, and this is where I think Rian Johnson makes the biggest mistake of this scene. Rey reminds Kylo that the fleet is under attack, and Kylo remembers that he's supposed to be the bad guy, so he decides to quote Vader and ask Rey to join him in ruling the galaxy.
Snoke, Skywalker, the Sith, the Jedi, the rebels, let it all die. I want you to join me. We can rule together and bring a new order to the galaxy.
Don't do this. Please don't go this way.
No, you're still holding on! Let go!
Now that Kylo is supposed to be the bad guy again, now he's angry and Rey is calm? Fuck you, Rian Johnson. If you wanted to be subversive and make this work, you could have had Kylo realize that Snoke is pure evil and have him turn to the light, while Rey, feeling betrayed by Luke, turns to the dark. This would not only be unexpected, but would logically follow what you've seen of these two characters leading up to this point. Rather than just have out of the blue Kylo turns angry and irrational and Rey is calm, you have them follow an arc that makes sense for their individual personalities. Kylo was always calm, but he felt betrayed by those on the light, and he comes to realize that betrayal was an incorrect perception, and therefore he should rejoin what he knows in his heart is good. While Rey is full of passion and anger, and as that builds up and she realizes that even the great Jedi Luke Skywalker is a disappointment for her, she knows that the only person who can really live up to her own expectations is herself, and that self-centered attitude leads her to the dark side. That would make sense. Anyway, Kylo asks Rey about her parents.
You know the truth, say it. Say it.
They were nobody.
They were filthy junk traders who sold you off for drinking money. The dead, in a pauper's grave in the Jakku desert. You have no place in this story. You come from nothing.
Fuck you, Rian Johnson. I will agree with Kylo on one point. Rey has no part in this story. She just pops in and randomly saves the day. She is not a part of the story at all. She's just a plot device with legs. She has no character. She has no struggle. She's just there when the story needs her there. Well, Rey and Kylo get into a little squabble over Luke's lightsaber. Why does this seem really, really familiar? Oh, so Rian Johnson got the idea from Ryan Weber's YouTube channel from about a decade ago. But I'm sure that Ryan did not steal any other ideas from YouTube. You, Rian Johnson. So they play tug of war with the lightsaber and it breaks. Now, that's pretty much it for the lightsaber, or well, what passes as a lightsaber fight in this film. So now let's move on to the aftermath of DJ's betrayal. Captain Phasma has decided that she is going to execute Finn and Rose on the hangar deck because killing them in the breaker room, I guess, wouldn't have been dramatic enough, and they just kind of stand around while the entire rest of the story moves around them. And this is kind of a stupid point here, is that they were basically just sitting here the whole time. They don't spend a lot of time on Rose and Finn, and so we can just assume that for the entire length of time that Rey and Kylo were fighting and the fleet was under attack, that they were just kind of sitting there staring at each other. But Phasma decides that shooting them with a blaster would be too good for them, so she wants them to suffer, and she calls up the special super stormtroopers with black shoulder pads, because that's a thing now. So they show up so that they can kill them with a maximum of pain. And that's pretty much it. Yay? So, let's take a look at what's been going on in space! So the First Order is destroying the transports left and right. And Haldo, for the first time since she said,
For the transports to escape, someone needs to stay behind and pilot the cruiser.
decides to actually pilot the ship. Keep in mind that this entire time, nobody has been at the controls of the ship. So why is it that Haldo had to stay behind? Why was that ever a part of the plan? Now, granted, they would all get killed if she wasn't on the Radis, but there's no logical reason for her to be on the Radis. Anyway, as she begins to turn the Radis, Poe, of course, realizes her plan right away because Poe is so good at recognizing Haldo's plans. And by the way, I know that in the Star Trek versus Star Wars debate, one factor that comes up quite often is the fact that the Federation has transporter technology, which would give them this huge edge over, say, the Empire. But as we see here, the First Order apparently has transporter technology as well, because look, Hux is now on the bridge, telling everybody to ignore the Radis. Now, you may think that it's not fair for me to give points for this, because they do show Hux walking in at the beginning of the shot, but I'm going to, because there are a couple of problems, assuming that Hux just walked in. First, the Radis is about 60 kilometers across, and from what we can see, it doesn't look like the hangar bay is anywhere near the bridge. So he had to go at least a couple of miles in the span of about a minute. And even if you want to argue,
well, they have super science fiction space elevators. I don't hear you complaining about turbo lifts from Star Trek.
fair enough. But what is Hux, the commander of the First Order, directed by Snoke himself to oversee the destruction of the Resistance, doing on the hangar deck rather than be on the bridge when he knew full well that they were minutes away from running out of fuel, that this was the critical moment for taking out the Resistance once and for all? Hux's incompetence is absolutely mind-blowing. And speaking of mind-blowing, wow. Just wow. That was the single most awesome suckage I've ever seen in my life. What, you may say? Wait a minute. That's like such an awesome scene. How could I possibly say something like that? Well, we're going to get into that next time, because there is way too much here with the hyperspace RAM to break down today. But trust me, we're going to delve into that. But until next time, take care.
Hit the like button, you will. Likes lead to comments. Comments lead to conversations. Conversations lead to understanding. Go to Patreon and support the anti-trucker you must, if supporting his videos you want. Yes, support his videos. Then listen to this at the end of the videos. You will not